So today I want to talk about Eminem and the Kamikaze album.
You know you got me, girl. I like the way that you move, the way you shake your body, girl. I got a whole lot of plans for you.
Thank you for tuning in to my channel, Ericson Presents, for another episode of Mixing Tutorials. Okay, so today I want to talk about Eminem and the Kamikaze album. It's the hottest thing out right now. His last album, Revival, that's pretty much the topic of this album. When I listen to this Eminem album as compared to Revival and the Marshall Mathers LP2, when I first heard those albums, I didn't like them. That was just my honest opinion. I didn't like it. I couldn't figure out why I didn't like them at the time. But then eventually it came to me. One, he's always had bars. We all know this. Eminem's wordplay, I don't know who has better wordplay than Eminem. If you know somebody who does, please comment that in the description below, because I would love to check that person out. But the reason why it was hard for me to listen to the last few Eminem albums was mainly because of the way they were mixed. When I listen to music, I enjoy music from an engineer standpoint. So if something doesn't sound correct to me, it's hard for me to get into it. It's a curse. I felt that his album, his vocals weren't mixed properly, and I felt that the music was also not mixed properly. The sound of Eminem when he first came out was a raw, bright sounding tone to his vocal. It was very bright. You can hear every single word that he said. When I listen to music, I like to enjoy the music without having to think too hard about it, without having to listen too hard. And listening to his last few albums, it was hard to hear what he was saying, mainly because I felt that the highs in his vocals were EQ'd out or they weren't enhanced, and he had a lot of mid-tone in his vocals. So if you go back and listen to like the Revival album, you can hear all the mid-tone that was in his voice, but it kind of made him sound muddy. He had a muddy sound. Kamikaze. So obviously, like everybody else, you got whiffed that Eminem just dropped the album. So what do? Everything stops. Let's just keep it real. Everything stops. Now you have to figure out, okay, how am I going to listen to this album? Fortunately, I was able to listen to it as soon as I heard about it. And The Ringer came on. Oh my God. Wow. I mean, I probably got halfway through the song and I kept rewinding because it wasn't that I couldn't hear him. It's just I wanted to hear it again. I think since this album's come out, today is September 12th is when I'm recording this. Ever since that album has come out, I have listened to this album every single day. Every single day. Whenever I have music on, I'm listening to this Eminem album. I'm trying to figure out why exactly I love the way this album makes me feel. And I came up with a few reasons. One, the bars. But then when I thought about it, Eminem has always had bars. So it's not like this is something new. The wordplay. Well, once again, Eminem has always had the wordplay, so it's not like there's something new. But what I did realize that the reason why I enjoyed this album so much and why I felt like this is what I needed was, one, it was mixed flawless. Flawless. I see that Dr. Dre executive produced it with him. So in my opinion, if Dre is involved, it's gonna sound magnificent. His vocals were bright. The bottom end that I was feeling that was muddying up the tracks in the previous albums, that was EQ'd out. So you can hear the full tone of Slim Shady. Not Eminem, but Slim Shady. Plus, he has something to prove. I think more so to himself than anybody else. That's just my opinion. But Slim Shady returned, and you can hear the ether in his voice. You heard everything so clear in his voice, and it made the listening experience like pleasant because, you know, when it comes to the flip of the tongue, Eminem is one of the best. and he's flipping the tongue, but at the same time, you're hearing every single word, syllable, everything. But not only that, but the selection of the music was just perfect. And when I really thought about it, like, man, well, like, this is something that a lot of producers should probably think about when they're producing. So here's what I want to like bring light to. A lot of his ambient sounds. I mean, when you listen to okay, let's just take the ringer. So when the ringer comes on, it's percussion. So it's bass, kick, snare. Those are predominant. Those are definitely out in the front. Then you have his voice. That's out in the front, nice and bright. But then when you hear the instrumentation behind him, that is not in the front. And I guess something has to be in the background in order for something else to shine further in the front. The music did not get in the way of his vocal whatsoever. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, it's incredible. I was trying to find a track that I can kind of just show what I'm talking about. I just pulled up one I made a while ago. Let's see what we got, y'all. Let's turn this up. So that's the example of the sound that I'm talking about. How there's no highs in that sound whatsoever. It's a lot of lower mids and a little bit of bass. That's it. But a vocal that's bright will shine nice and bright over that type of sound. Same thing. So when I was listening to this album, and I was actually paying attention to the production and the decisions that was made for, you know, the instruments, and a lot of these sounds, the high ends of the sounds were not there. The best way to describe who I first started hearing do this, you know, as a trademark or as a sound was Drake. When you listen to interviews by 40, like, he talks about it. He says, I want the vocal to maintain the high end of the music. So when you listen to a Drake song, like, his vocals are very present. I felt like the same approach was taken on this Eminem album. And I really think that if you're a producer and you want to make music that just fits together, you need to carve out the space for the vocal, because if you do that, everything would just flow together like Legos. This is not really a very technical tutorial, but it was definitely something that I wanted to touch on, because you can hear the difference between this album and the last two albums, or I want to say last three. I don't even remember what the third one was ago. Was it Relapse maybe? I don't know. I've listened to all of them, but I haven't listened to all of them the way I've listened to this one. Except, you know, you got to go back from the Eminem show and further back. I mean, listen to that. As the engineer, you should be able to hear exactly where that vocal is going to sit. There should be no guessing. There's no guesswork. You don't have to keep raising a vocal up and down until you can figure out how we're going to make it work. Like, when you listen to that, you just know where the vocal is going to go, because there's nothing in the frequency of where the vocal is going to sit. That's I don't know how to explain it any better than that. This is what I'm talking about. So simple tutorial for today is make room for the vocal. I had no idea what I was going to talk about when I started this, but I just knew that I had to say something. So I guess the moral of this tutorial is to make room for the vocal. When you're producing the record, make room for the vocal. And if you do receive files and you're having problems with the vocals, well, then you might want to start EQing out some of the high end of the vocal, or the frequency of where the vocal sits, usually around anywhere from 2K to 3K, and somewhere in that range. Start taking some of that out and see if your vocal stands out even more. Thank you for tuning in. As always, if you find something helpful for you, please hit the thumbs up. Also, if you haven't watched my last video and saw how new rules could actually help your mix, then I would highly advise that you go back and watch that video so you can get up to speed. But other than that, y'all have a good one. I'll see you in the next one.
Tomorrow, you know you got me, girl. Tomorrow, girl. I like the way that you move, the way you shake your body, girl. I got a whole lot of plans for you, so baby, come here.